37 ships stuck in the Strait of Hormuz, not by storm, not by blockade, but by a single decision Iran made while the world wasn't watching. And now the U.S.
Treasury Secretary just went on camera and said the words that change everything, going kinetic. That's not a threat. That's a promise. Stay with me. Because what's happening right now in these negotiations will reshape global energy markets, reshape how America projects power,
and reshape whether this administration can actually deliver on the deal it's been selling. So here's what we're figuring out together. First, why is Iran suddenly controlling the Strait of Hormuz when every analyst said that was impossible without a full U.S. military response? Second, why is Scott Bessent, the Treasury Secretary, having to do damage control on a deal that Trump himself keeps contradicting? And third, why are the people Trump relies on most to sell this war now the exact people blocking any agreement? We'll get to all three. But to make sense of any of it, you need to understand one specific thing about how Trump actually negotiates. And it's not what the mainstream tells you. Trump's negotiation theory, the one he wrote about in The Art of the Deal, is this. You offer massive concessions you never intend to keep. You pocket what the other side gives you. Then you break your word. The Iranians know this. They've studied it. They've lived through it. So when Trump says one thing in a press conference, then his Treasury Secretary says another thing in a briefing, then his vice president says a third thing, Iran doesn't get confused. Iran gets cautious. They only trust what they can hold in their hands. And right now, what they're holding is control of the world's most critical shipping lane. Let's rewind to what Bessent actually said yesterday. Quote, the United States government will not tolerate any effort to impose a tolling system in the Strait of Hormuz. Oman, in particular, should know that the U.S. Treasury will aggressively target any actors involved directly or indirectly in facilitating tolls. Any willing partners will be penalized. Iran's days of terrorizing the regime and the world are over. Strong words. Except Trump himself suggested partnering with Iran on a tolling system. So the contradiction isn't accidental. It's structural. It's built into how this administration operates. Now, Oman is the key here. Oman sits on the strait. Oman just signed major new commercial agreements with Iran. Oman is preparing for what every regional power is preparing for, a world where the U.S. isn't the final authority on what moves through Middle Eastern waters. Bessent called the Omani ambassador this morning, told him tolling is a non-starter, told him Omani institutions would get sanctioned if they cooperate. The ambassador said, no, we have 200 years of good relations. We want 200 more. But here's the thing Bessent didn't say out loud. The U.S. cannot actually stop Iran from tolling the strait, not without military action. And Trump doesn't want military action. Trump wants a deal, but he wants it on terms that let him tell Mark Levin and Netanyahu it's a victory. That's the trap. Ryan Grimm from Dropsite News was following this closely. And his observation cuts to the core. Trump doesn't have room to be selective about tolls. Fuel inventories worldwide are approaching empty. Strategic reserves are depleted. We're heading into genuine shortage territory for the first time since World War II. If the strait stays open and oil flows, Trump can claim victory. If he starts stopping ships over tolls, the strait effectively closes. More war closes the strait. Trump needs it open. So his only move is to let Iran toll it, then claim he didn't know, or claim it's actually a good thing. Either way, he has to sell it to his own base without losing credibility he doesn't have. Then Bessent said the words that matter most. Quote, if President Trump doesn't think he can get a peace deal, then kinetic is back. That's not a policy statement. That's an admission. It's an admission that the deal is fragile. It's an admission that patience is running out. It's an admission that the administration is divided. Because while Bessent is trying to negotiate, Netanyahu and Mark Levin are in Trump's ear saying no concessions, no Iranian funds, no investment fund, no reconstruction money. And they're the people who convinced Trump to start this war in the first place. So they have leverage, they have his ear, and every time Trump inches toward a deal, they pull him back. Here's what the actual deal looks like, according to reporting from the New York Times, from Axios, from Jeremy Scahill at Dropsite. Iran gets economic relief. access to frozen funds, a reconstruction investment fund somewhere between $300 billion and $1 trillion, depending on who you ask, and de facto control of the strait through a tolling system. The U.S. gets Iran stops attacking ships, Iran stops expanding its nuclear program, regional stability. On paper, it makes sense. Both sides get something. Both sides can sell it domestically. But Trump has a problem. The people selling his war don't want him to make this deal, so they're blocking it. They're calling it appeasement. They're saying it's humiliation. And Trump, who's focused on his 250th anniversary party, his UFC fights on the White House lawn, his $250 bill with his face on it, is getting exhausted by the contradiction. Here's the thing that matters most. Iran's nuclear program is no longer their leverage. They spent decades making it central to their identity, thinking they'd trade it away for recognition. But they realized something. The nuclear threat is abstract. You can't follow through on it without ending civilization. But the Strait of Hormuz? That's real. That's followable. That's a threat Iran can actually execute. So they're not giving that up. They're not trading control of the strait for promises about nuclear inspections. They learned that lesson from every broken agreement of the past 20 years. So what happens next? 3 scenarios. Scenario 1, Trump gets tired of the contradiction and just lets Iran toll the strait. He tells his base it's temporary. It's a negotiating tactic. It's leverage for something bigger. It's not, but he sells it that way. Scenario 2, Netanyahu and Levin successfully block any deal. Trump loses patience. He goes kinetic. He attacks Iran. The strait closes. Oil prices spike. The economy tanks. Trump's 250th anniversary party becomes a funeral. Scenario 3, something breaks in the next 72 hours that forces a decision. Markets close today. If there's no deal by market open Monday, the assumption is war is back on the table. Iran knows this. The U.S. knows this. Everyone's watching the clock. The real question isn't whether Trump can get a deal. It's whether he can survive getting a deal, because his own coalition won't let him. The people who sold him on this war are now the people preventing peace. And Trump, for all his talk about being a deal maker, is trapped between his base and his negotiating partners. Iran's only moving forward on things they can keep. Words don't matter anymore. Only commitments matter. And the U.S. has burned through its credibility, so Iran waits. The strait stays contested. Oil markets stay volatile. And somewhere in the West Wing, Bessent is probably wondering why he agreed to be the cleanup guy for a president who won't stop contradicting himself. The deal isn't dead yet, but it's on life support, and the clock is ticking.